Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information, history, talking about culture, hey, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In this edition of Between the Headlines, we're going to be looking at the just concluded fire investigation of the Capitol building in Monrovia. That fire investigation was concluded, and we have the findings. With me, I have someone who knows a thing or two about fire investigation. He's a firefighter and EMT from the Boston Fire Department. His name is Mr. James Alexander Harding. Welcome, sir. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
This is your second time on Focus on Liberia. We are glad to have you. Thank you so much for availing yourself. I know the schedule is tight, but you accepted to be here.
Yes, I am actually at work now, and hopefully I'll be able to complete this interview. So,
thank you. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. Please tune in, invite a friend, and let's have a discussion and analysis of what we saw as the fire department, the group. They give their findings. Some time ago, the Capitol building got a fire. That's the joint chamber. It's been, maybe over a month now, and there was a fire experts call from the U.S. to Liberia, the investigator, and they got their conclusion. So before we even begin the show, let me read here their conclusion before we start. Based on a systemic fire investigation following the best practices, the fire has been classified as incendiary in nature. The determination reached through a methodical analysis of fire patterns, material damage, witness statements, and physical evidence processed and collected at the scene. The area of origin has been identified at or near the speaker's podium, where the most significant fire damage was identified. This finding is supported by burn pattern analysis and correlates with witnesses' statements regarding the first windows breaking on the west side of the building, which introduced additional oxygen and intensified the fire. Our investigation concludes that a fire originating near the speaker's podium will involve a lot of combustibles such as furniture, cloth, bunting, foam chairs, carpet, and the like. The rapid spread of this fire suggests an ignitable liquid was used to allow such a fire to spread to full involvement within minutes. Above the speaker's podium was a vertical wall covered with wood paneling and the labyrinth crest on its face. With the fire originating at or near the podium, the fire moved vertically up the wall and across underneath of the west wall balcony. It then moved vertically up the front of the wood-covered backdrop and the labyrinth crest into the ceiling. Mr. Harden, before we begin the conversation, I know I talk a little bit about you. You know, you have some many years of fire service experience with the Boston Fire Department. Let's talk a little bit about that. Some who are watching for the first time would know the credibility you bring to the discussion.
Well, thank you for that. I was born in Liberia. I've been in the States for since I was a young man, in my teenage. Live in the Boston area. I've been on the Boston Fire Department for about 28, going to 29 years now. I've done all manner of jobs on the fire department, different departments, hazmats, technical rescues. Um, I'm actually currently on the Marine unit. So right now we patrol the Boston Harbor, um, all the waterways of the Boston area. That's what I currently do now. Um, to I have also I was in Liberia. I have also contributed to the fire service in Liberia, where there in 2013 with these same members, these same guys who did the investigation,
Oh,
Ken
really?
Perlman, Jerry Shrek, and Mark Lynn. I know all of them. They're fellow colleagues of mine from Minnesota. And we were in Liberia in 2013 doing training exercises with the Liberian Fire Service, the LPRC, and with the Port Fire Service, the National Port Fire Service.
Thank you. I know we fire investigation. Who does it when there's a fire? I mean, who are the people that do fire investigation?
Fire investigations are done by fire investigators. These people are trained in forensics, in examining evidence at a fire. Their main job is to determine what was the cause of the fire, not necessarily who caused the fire, but at least what caused the fire. If it was electrical, if it was intentionally set, um, and any other factors that may have to do with it, especially if to say was a death,
Okay.
if there was casualties in the fire. It's important for the people, the investigators, to determine all of these different factors. But these are specifically trained members of any fire service. That's their job.
So, can any firefighter investigate fire, or that's another additional training you need?
That's an
It-
additional training you need.
Tell me a little bit about that training. What is required?
Um, the training is about preserving evidence. It's mainly forensics
Okay.
and knowing the characteristics of a fire, knowing the characteristics of different articles that can cause a fire, say gasoline, or say if it's an electrical fire, say if it's a lightning strike, that they can, with some degree of accuracy, determine the actual cause and the seat of the fire, where the fire started.
Mhm.
That's usually determined by a burn pattern, the place that has the most char. If I throw gasoline, and most people who live in Africa, if you throw gasoline to start a fire, you will see the pattern where the fire follow the gas, the liquid. That will burn more intensely because of the nature of gasoline. So you can actually see after a fire how the fire started, where it traveled, and how it spread. All
And what
science to that.
what do you need? I'm asking that question as somebody who has never seen a fire investigation. Do you need special equipment? Do you need goggles? Do you need what? What are the equipments involved?
You need certain special equipment, but a lot of it is basic experience, and there's a science in terms of how intense, say, a gasoline fire, say, can be as opposed to a chemical fire,
Mhm.
or to another chemical that could start a fire, or say to an electrical fire. So all of these things you have to understand. And for the most part, you don't need any really fancy equipment because fire is basic. And a lot of things, as long as you know what to look for, you should be able to deduce. If you need any special chemical or equipment, that would be more in terms of, say, any kind of a chemical fire. You need to have to determine if the chemical is still existing in the area.
Okay.
And it's usually dangerous work because you're going to be exposed to a lot of different things while you're investigating the fire. But it's usually done after the fire
Okay.
has been put out.
We hear the word
Also,
forensic.
just quickly, one of the most important things about investigating a fire is how soon after the fire you are it being investigated. So once the fire is put out, the fire investigated has to be done immediately afterward
Okay.
because of the preservation of evidence. And you're gonna have people walking through the fire
Mhm.
scene and damaging evidence, the forensics part. So this has to be done very, very soon after the fire is put out.
And why
That's
is that?
crucial.
Why is that? Why should it be done? So, what if the fire happens today, but that place is barricaded for the next 2 or 3 months? Will the evidence still be preserved?
It's possible some evidence can be preserved, even if it's sealed off. But usually, um, we're trained as firemen that soon after a fire, you need to get out because after you walk through the scene, you're going to disturb the evidence.
Mhm.
So they train us, we have to back out. Now, I don't know what kind of training they have for the fire people after the fire was put out, who was in the building, how long they were in the building for before you preserve it. Usually at a fire, they're waiting outside. They're waiting outside the building. They're present at the fire, because they have to also observe
Yeah.
the burn, the how intense the fire was. There's a lot of observation that has to be done as the fire is going. That's crucial.
Mhm.
And then they walk in right after we leave and investigate what happened. That's the
And
way how it should be done.
when we talk of evidence that need to be preserved, what are some of the things? I mean, the place is burned. When they say evidence, are they looking for the couch that is burned, or they looking for what would be a possible evidence of a place that is burned?
Exactly. They are actually looking for that couch that is burned because they want to see how much of the couch is left
Okay.
and how much of the couch is burnt. That can determine a lot. Now, most couches are made out of foam and plastic, and it's going to burn relatively quickly. But there's still going to be what's left of that particular couch or bed. Um, and they can really determine just by examining the remains of whether it was burnt, how intense the fire was, and you can kind of reconstruct what was possibly used to set the fire or what caused the fire rather than set the fire. It could have been a cigarette, you understand?
Yeah.
Somebody was sleeping on the couch. They didn't put the cigarette out. It got on the couch and started a fire. All these kind of, and a cigarette can start a big fire. All you need is a spark, right? So,
Yeah.
but if someone pour gasoline on the couch, that fire will burn a lot more intense, very fast. And you can actually deduct from from the remains of a fire what happened,
Mhm.
how did it happen.
we often hear the word forensic when it comes to this investigation. In the case of the Capitol building, I mean, what is this forensic?
The forensic is just that. It's it's the science of deduction, of looking at what remains from the scene. Um, you can take some samples. You can actually you might need a lab to actually examine to determine directly that it was actually gasoline, because gasoline will leave certain residue. So that you need the
Mhm.
residue, whether it's human remains, whether it's wood remains, whether it remains of the couch. All those things need to be put under a lab, and the lab will tell you to a very accurate degree what was there before it got burnt. You understand? So
Mhm.
a burnt part of, say, of a human being, a dead body, right? It may look like a piece of wood to you, but in the
Yeah.
lab, it can tell you, no, that's not a piece of wood. That was actually a human being. That was a part of a human being that you're looking at, not a piece of wood. So that's the main reason why you have to clear everybody out of the way. Don't clean anything until the people come and are taking a look, and they get all the little pieces and they put everything together to look at it on a microscope. And then they can tell you, well, somebody was burnt here. These are the remains of the person. They can even go to the point of identifying
Mhm.
that particular person if all the evidence exists and if the person had a record.
What is the call it collaboration or cooperation between the police and the fire service? Who is actually doing that investigation? Is the police part of it, or they're going to wait until the evidence is or the investigation is presented to them? How does the police and the fire department, come together during a fire investigation?
Most departments, they have the arson squad. Most fire departments have an arson division. Most police department also have an arson division. Both of those departments, arson divisions, work together. So the fire department, they determine what caused the fire, what was in the fire. The police will take the case, and then now they have to determine who caused the fire and what did they use. And so this is a collaboration that is very, very necessary. They usually work in the same office, in the same buildings, if you want to get the best results.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia Between the Headlines. We are talking about the fire investigation just happening that happened in Monrovia. My guest is Mr. James Alexander Harden. He has been with the Boston Fire Department for over 25, 26, 27 years. And this year we are laying the foundation before we get to the actual fire that happened. You heard of this fire, right? That
Yes,
but from the time it happened, it's been over a month now, right?
been three
We
months.
3 months, yeah,
Yes, it was December 18th.
yeah, 3 months.
Yeah, think about that for a second. 3 months. December 18th is when this fire happened, before Christmas of 2024.
So if nobody went in that place, if the entire Capitol building was sealed up, it is possible that we have evidence that investigators can investigate, correct? Or will, or it's going to be hard. What do you think? Three
A lot
months?
of
That's a long time.
things. It's a long time. Like I said, this is supposed to happen right away. Now, an investigation was carried out right away. I don't know how soon after, but I know the National Fire Service did have an investigation,
Yeah.
and they came to a conclusion. Um, uh, I'll just leave it at that for now. I'll let you
Yeah.
continue to ask.
Yeah. They came. So, I mean, I know you are not part of the police department or the fire service in Liberia, but what will warrant another investigation? Is it an extension or because when I was reading the report and we'll come to the report, it appears to me that the evidence was presented to the Minnesota fire people by the group in Liberia. So, like
Yes.
they themselves did not collect the evidence.
No. they couldn't. It's been 3 months,
Yeah.
2.5 months. Okay, almost 3 months, right? I did read the Fire Rescue Alliance
Yeah.
report. I read the whole thing, and yet they were the National Fire Service report was presented to them, and they looked it over. And from what they put in their report, they immediately dismissed it because they concluded that these people don't, the National Fire Service don't have the proper training, and then the investigation was not executed professionally or properly. But the funny thing is, the same conclusion was reached at the end,
Yeah.
uh, which is interesting in itself. So,
And why is that funny?
well, in the report for fires from the Fire Rescue Alliance, they pretty much dismissed the National Fire Service's conclusion. I mean, investigation, their practices, and everything. It's right there in the report.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, now I didn't read the National Fire Service report, but from what I understand, they pretty much came to the same conclusion that it was incendiary and it was basically intentionally set. It was arson.
Yeah. Now let's go to the Fire Alliance, right? Do
Yes,
you mentioned earlier that you know them.
I know them.
What
And
can
the
you
colleagues
say
of mine.
about them? Are they? I don't know to what extent you know them. Are they capable of investigating fire and giving us a
They're
report?
very capable. All of them are very, very experienced. They're very good men. They're very sharp. They're very professional.
Mm.
Ken Perlman, I worked under him when we came to Liberia. Very, very sharp, very smart, very intelligent, and I have really their handicap was the time, which has also already passed by the time they got on the ground to
Mm.
investigate. So they did, from what I understand, from what I can see, they did the best they can. The scene was sealed off, which helps tremendously. It was very important that the scene was sealed off so that they can come in and look as best as they can. How sealed off it was, who knows? But the 3 months is a long time in between. So it's possible to get a good conclusion. If there's one thing about the fire science is there's certain things that you can't really dispute. They from according to the report, the gasoline containers were still on the scene. That in itself
Yeah, I
simplifies.
wonder they were burned or the container was still intact because I learned about the 8 containers. I don't know if they were burned or not.
From what they were saying, these containers were in the different entrances,
Yeah.
portals to get into the building, and they were still there. They weren't burnt. So it's possible that they could have thrown the gasoline and then dropped the cans, but the cans were still there. The containers were still there on the premises.
And,
So,
and probably
if
empty.
anything, the Liberian government did do a good job in closing off the area and making sure everything stays the same as much as possible.
How
But
long?
if this were to go to court and you were accusing me of it, for instance, you will have a hard time convicting me because of the length of time that it took for the professional investigators to come there. But apparently they already have them, and I haven't really followed. So
Hmm. The length of how long will it typically take? I mean, do you think the investigation was quick or that's the normal time?
it was quick due to lack of equipment. Usually, a lot of samples would be sent to a lab,
Right.
and the lab will come to a certain conclusion. This could take up to a month,
Right.
depending on the different things. And there's no lab, there's no forensics lab in Liberia. So all they were really going by was what they could see, what their professional experience as investigators or as firemen. I can't speak to their training as arson specialists. I don't know if any of them are. I know they're experienced firemen, fire chiefs, fire officers. I just can't say if they were trained. I don't know their specifics in terms of if they were trained as arson investigators.
Mm.
But through their experience and through their professionalism, they were able to look at what was given to them 3 months later
Yeah.
and come to an educated conclusion.
And that conclusion they say is classified as incendiary. That's a big word. Is that typical? Do they use that
That's an
normally?
interesting word. They, I think they didn't specifically say that it was arson. I
Arson.
don't know what their directive was, what their job was like. When whoever hired them say, "Tell us what happened." Was it arson? I don't know what their exact question that was given to them for them to answer, but they did say that it was incendiary. Incendiary means
Designed to cause fire.
yes. So incendiary incendiary is any kind of fire situation is incendiary.
Is anything, right?
If anything, if the coal pot is incendiary, or the fire underneath the coal pot is incendiary. So it was kind of obvious that the incendiary part, which I'm not fully understanding. Yeah, it was incendiary. Everybody saw the fire. So
So I
it
mean,
was
why
kind of stating the obvious. So excuse me.
and why they couldn't say they couldn't use arson?
That's a good question. Like I said, I don't know what the directive was. What the
The
people
parameters.
who hired and said to them, please tell us if this is arson or if this is not. I don't think they can make the conclusion of arson because of the time and because of the lack of certain materials of a lab and all of that. But they can look and tell you, yeah, it's burned. But I think anybody can look and say, that's why I laughed initially when I talked about the National Fire Service's their investigation compared to the so-called professional
Yeah.
investigation, and they both came to the same conclusion. So
Right. Because incendiary is like a flammable.
yes,
So what's the point now? Okay, they say the fire has been classified as incendiary in nature. Isn't that I mean, I don't want to ascribe motive to it,
right.
but is it intended to confuse us? I mean, what can you tell us? It's like you are saying the fire was caused by burning.
Yes, that's exactly what I didn't quite understand. I didn't really understand what they mean by incendiary.
Okay.
Yes, it's incendiary. Everybody knows it was incendiary. If you know what the word incendiary means, yes. So it was caused. Maybe they meant that it was caused by,
A
in other words,
deliberate
it
action.
didn't start electrically. You know
Okay.
how electrical situation can cause a fire. If you get a spark, the load too much on the wire, and then it would catch on something, and then it would blink. Right? They specifically said that none of the electrical was charged. So I guess the incendiary means that it wasn't caused by electric,
Mhm.
the AC units or anything like that. Nothing shorted out and
What,
started the
what,
fire.
what, what if somebody dropped a cigarette or someone wanted to see some, meaning if it is not intentional, could that be incendiary also? Because you could
Yes.
you could smoke and drop something and it burn, or you could
Yeah.
light a
You can smoke
candle.
a
You were,
cigar. You can smoke a cigar, a
yeah,
cigarette, and flick it, and then that could start a fire. That's incendiary.
right.
Right? So their conclusion was that it wasn't started by anything else except that somebody put some gasoline and
Mm.
started a fire. Now, they can't also conclude that there was actually gasoline in the cans because there's no lab. You understand?
Yeah,
So they see the cans there.
exactly.
They containers that possibly had some flammable liquid, but they couldn't tell you what kind of flammable liquid in it because these cans cannot be examined in the lab. You understand?
And I wonder what a liquid. I don't think those cans were empty.
Yes, they were
Probably.
empty. Right. So if you leave the gasoline container open and the gas evaporate,
Yeah.
or maybe kerosene will slowly evaporate. So whether it's kerosene, whether it's gas, whether it's whatever it was, they can't conclusively say what it was because
So
those
let,
cans were
let,
empty and there's no
let's
gas.
look at how they said they reached the conclusion. They said through methodical analysis. I want you to break each of those words down for us. Methodical analysis, that's one.
Yes. Yes.
Fire patterns, that's two.
Yep.
Material damage, three. Witness statements, four. And physical evidence processed and collected at the scene. What does this mean?
Well, let's put aside the witness statements for
Yeah.
the time being
I don't
because
know if the witness include Funati Kofa, who was just there today.
they also also they didn't interview necessarily a lot of the people who were there because it's been 3 months.
Yeah.
So those witnesses, those statements could actually change in that 3 months. I know they mentioned a firefighter who was on scene or who put he had sent his kids to school and he was on scene and he served as a witness. But so let's put aside the witness statement aside for a while.
Yeah.
The professional analysis, it's really all they had. After 3 months, that's all you really have is your experience. And so you have to analyze burn patterns. You have to analyze the path of fire, um, mainly by observing. There's really no other way for you to come to any other conclusion, right? So you look at the materials, you look at the burn patterns, you look at how much fire, and it was a pretty big fire. It was a big fire.
Yeah.
So you go through all that, and you're a professional conclusion, whether you're an arson specialist or whether you're a basic firefighter who have some experience, will tell you the nature of what happened, right?
Yeah.
Um, yep, this looked like the fire started. It was incendiary. This was not started by also the location of the fire. They talk about how it was right by
The
the
speaker's
podium,
podium.
the speaker's podium. So somebody was either sending a message. If they were trying to burn the whole place down, it's hard to draw that conclusion. Maybe they just wanted to burn the podium itself, and then the whole thing went up. But once you start a fire, you can't really determine the fire would do what it would do. So
In the you were not investigating, but I was also wondering what do they intend to do with the result, right? Because the police and our fire service investigated, people were indicted, and they, some in jail. What
yeah,
is the investigation supposed to do in your view?
I'm not sure. Maybe they needed another. A lot of times
Hmm.
here in America and probably in the whole world, if your building is insured, for you to get the money that you're supposed to get, you have to have a report,
Yeah.
right? A professional report. Now, I don't know if that's the case with a government building like the Capitol, but a lot of times for the insurance need that report so they can determine how they're going to pay you your money. If they're even going to pay your money, because if you bring your own building, they're not going to pay you, right? So they have to determine all of that for insurance purposes. Now, maybe you have insurance purposes and maybe you also have political purposes, right? Uh, that's the only conclusion that I can come up with, that it was done more for uh, because what different conclusion did they come up with? Did the big,
Mm.
the trained American white men came down and what did it determine anything different than what the poorly equipped Liberian people investigated? Did they come with did they come up with anything different? I don't think so.
But
Personally speaking.
do we, I was kind of researching on this, and I was talking to people, and this is what someone said. He said, I wanted to think this is magic, because it's like you call someone, because we are used to calling the voodoo master to tell us
Yes.
just by. So, I mean, to get someone from the United States after 3 months, what really are they expecting them to do? How do they expect them to come up with the evidence? Is it, are they thinking, it, really what I want to ask is, do they understand what a fire investigation entails? Or do they want them to play magic?
I don't think they did. I don't think they do. I think um maybe some people will take the answer from the white man more than before they would take it from the Liberian man. Maybe they feel that because they're more professionally trained and they can come up with a more solid answer.
Mm.
But if you're professionally trained and you have all these tools and you can't really apply these tools because it's been 3 months, the lack of lab work, the lack of everything, is that trained professional any different from the
Mm.
so-called poorly trained professional in Liberia? I don't think so, personally. What are they going to see that I can't see? I don't have to see. I don't have to be there to know. I can know that the fire. Okay, how did the fire start? Well, you see the cancer, you see the burn pattern, and you look at everything, and you come to the same conclusion that of what happened.
If somebody
So I
started
don't
with,
know what the value of them coming down and what you paid them to come down to do, because I know there was some money involved, a lot of money.
but any, I don't know, any professional can accept that, or you say, well, since they don't know better, I'm going to. I don't mean to demean anyone, but if you are called on the scene after they have gone through this place,
Right.
the Liberian firefighters, they investigated, meaning they walked through,
Yes.
and then they are calling you 3 months after. If you are a true professional, can you accept that?
No. In
So
my
what?
opinion, in my
Yeah.
opinion, going down there 3 months later in a scene where you consider the people not as professional, not as trained as you are, all the money that was put in your training, all the years of experience that you have, for you to take that kind of a job 3 months later, what are you gonna? What's your what? You're hampered by everything. You all kinds of things in your way now. So what kind of work can you really do? You can really
Yeah.
and you can come and do the best as you can, and in your professional and 30 years of experience, and I've been to all this work and I've done all this stuff, and you come and you look at a scene 3 months later, what's going to be your professional opinion at a scene of a fire? If there's one thing, fire is fire. Whether it's the Capitol or whether it's somebody's house, small house, something burned it. What burned it? It is the smoking, the coal pot, electrical fire. There's just a few things that's going to start a fire. So was it intentionally done? That's a big part. But
Hmm.
3 months later, what are you really going to see? It will be difficult for an arson investigator to come in 3 months later and come up with any really good, solid answers for you,
You say, oh, we
in
saw a
my
container
opinion.
at the door, and then there was a break in, and because of that, air came in, and
Yes.
that kind of you know caused the fire to spread quickly. I mean, who will not know that?
See, when I just heard the news. Somebody called me. Somebody pinched me. I said, "My man, your people, yo." I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're on the ground. What are they there for? What are they doing investigation in the capital? Oh, but and nothing happened 3 months ago. Yeah. Yeah. Well, then you see later on that the place was sealed and it was preserved, if you will, or okay. So what's the conclusion they came up with? They don't have any labs. They don't have any real way to verify their results. So all they're gonna say to you that yeah, it was incendiary. It
Hmm.
wasn't electrical. It was incendiary. They didn't even really say if it was caused by pouring gasoline and then actually intentionally set. All it said was that it was incendiary,
Hmm.
which is pretty obvious if you ask me, in my opinion.
Let's talk about, okay, normally the fire department and the police, let's consider that as the government. So you conduct your investigation and you have, so if you want an independent investigation done, will you be the same person to call them? Or how does that work?
No,
Because
it can't be an independent because usually these people are trained by the government. You understand? They're trained by the fire service people. So they have to come to their own. The government has to come to their own conclusion as to what happened. That's what happened. The investigators on the ground already investigated.
right,
That is your best. That is you. That is what you pay for, right? That's your best result that you're going to get. These are the people who you paid. That's their job. Now, if you decide that, well, we're going to fly some people in from America because these people are more experienced, that's kind of uh, extra. And
yeah,
then they, with all their experience, they come pretty much to the same conclusion that your people came up with. Then what did you just accomplish? I don't know.
Funati, Representative Funati Kofa, I don't want to go into the speaker business. He said that's the police IG, that's their friends. He said those are their friends that they call, right? So does that, because it's the same police department that calling these people.
Yes.
Would they say anything different because you call them, you pay them, or because you are independent, or you are professional, you're going to say something different? I mean, or is it like you eat my rest, you got to sing my song?
There's no way that if you're a professional, the results are the results.
Okay.
But we all know that political pressure can apply. So you can say anything you want about anybody can say anything that well. You can trash the whole this whole report done by Fire Rescue Alliance and say the same thing now. And if you pay these people to come, ain't now you the one paying them,
Yeah.
right? You may not for them to come down and for them to do this. You can't tell me there's not a certain amount of influence that you're expecting or that you may be
Mhm.
applying to get a certain result, right?
Right.
If I pay you the same way how you call your friend, they call their friend. This wasn't paid for by another entity to do this investigation. This was paid by the Liberian government. So I'm sure Fire Rescue Alliance doesn't have an agenda necessarily when they in terms of what their conclusions are. If they did, they probably would not say it was incendiary. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
They would have probably come up with something else, but they can't because there's a certain amount of professionalism and facts that are on the table that everybody can see. So if you're coming up with some kind of definite conclusion other than incendiary, it can almost imply political influence. So
I,
they just have. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Just end your thought.
No, I just think that um, with the time and who was paying them and what they were doing there, and their unfamiliarity with what's really happening, right? They're just there as paid professionals. So they will
Yeah.
do the best that they can. Um, but it's very possible that there still could be some influence for in the result. So what do you do with an incendiary conclusion? Nothing. What do you do with that? What are you telling people? Yes, okay, so he didn't start electrical, so it was started this way, but it did not say arson.
Right.
Because if you say arson, then you have to show what started the fire, which they cannot do. You can come to a logical conclusion and a professional conclusion that this was intentionally set.
Right.
As to
Yeah.
why it was set and who said it, you can't say, right? So
And,
incendiary is probably the best answer you can get them.
and I know you've been part of investigation that went to court.
Yes.
In a case this goes to court, I mean, you can, if the people could get that container right and see whose fingerprint is on it, that could
Yes.
link. But we don't have any of those.
No.
So how are we going to? And they talk about the witnesses. I mean, around there is. I mean, you are telling me that there is no camera that saw anybody. So, what evidence do you think will be presented to court to convict anyone?
Well,
A Facebook post by Kofa or one earlier.
I don't think. I mean, I think you can try to enter what Fire Rescue Alliance. You can probably enter their report in court uh as evidence, if you will, or as a conclusion as to what happened. I think it's possible for you to do that, but it can also be heavily questioned because of mainly the time that lasts between the investigation and the fire, which means the whole scene could be compromised. So uh, that's that's the main reason why they cannot specifically say it was ours, because I'm drawing
But
different conclusions. I'm drawing a conclusion. And this is all my opinion, by the way. I think it'll be difficult for them to submit that report in court, mainly because of the whole scene could be compromised, and that could throw everything out. They did their best, but that lapse in time is a big factor.
ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be part of the conversation, please call the number on the screen and ask the fire expert a question. 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. Mr. Adam, you say you know these people.
Yes.
Is there? I don't want to, I don't want to talk for you or to say, well, I'm pushing you forward. But if you know them and if you've been there with them before in 2013, when President Bouakai was vice president, President Salih was there.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why your fellow Liberian will not ask you to tag along with the fire with this group? What you did to them?
Like I said, I was surprised when I heard the news. So there could be some personal issues involved. Ken Perlman, who was in charge of this group, who was also in charge of the group that came in 2013. I know he's not. How can I say this?
Yeah, I'll give you a chance to think about it.
Well, I mean, how can I? Maybe maybe he didn't. To put it simply, maybe he doesn't like me because of whatever particular reason. As far as I know, I have no problem with him, and as far as I know, he has no problem with me. Maybe it was a short term. Maybe he didn't try to reach and try to match schedules. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it wasn't like, hey, it was pretty much who can come with me. Now I don't know what the time was between when they were contacted and when they went. I really don't. So uh, um, it's really hard to say. Trying to reach people across the country for them to come to get everybody organized, who can come. it can be a difficult task. If it's a matter of, well, but I wasn't contacted in any way, so
Hmm.
there goes that. So again, maybe this was a quick service thing, like who can come with me or let go. So
Hmm. Yeah. And I think they say they claim they don't know the IG Gregory Coleman. So, but if we have Liberian firefighters and we are calling for experts from the states, and you were there with them, and nobody can suggest your name, oh, or are you like the fire guys there in Monrovia who who report was dismissed?
that's a really good question. They again, the people who report the people who report was dismissed came to the same conclusion that his professionals came with, right? So despite of all their shortcomings and all of their handicaps and the fact that they're not trained, they didn't got the money, they sloppy work, whatever they want to say. If they came to the same conclusion as the people 3 months later who came with all the expertise and all the schools and knowledge behind them.
Hmm. Let me bring in one caller and see what others are saying. Caller Christopher Wulati Tobasi, you are live. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. John. I have I mean, not for the fire expert in studio right now, but if I were to ask RG Gregory Coleman a couple of questions, I will start by, how did he secure the scene, the potential crime scene, and then how did he collect the evidence that are in question, and because I don't know if they wore gloves and stuff like that, and then interviewing of the eyewitnesses. Sometimes the eyewitnesses can also lie just to be part of the story, so you have to interview those eyewitnesses and make sure that they're telling the truth, so that they also don't become or create more problem for your investigation, So, but there's other things. I don't know how did they analyze, the evidences that they collected, chain of custody, preservation of evidences, how many people touched the so-called evidences that are in question, So there's so much to this thing, Instead of just coming up and saying, "Oh, I'm getting people from America, I'm paying them so amount." In fact, we don't know how much they pay these people, so that taxpayer can be aware of how they're spending their money, and stuff like that. RG Gregory Coleman he claimed to be a professional man, but sometimes, he can allow the politics to consume him, and I hope he doesn't go down in the history of Liberia one of the worst RG ever, because he's allowing politics to control his work. He's a trained man, he's a sound officer, but he needs to do away with the politics and try to do his work correctly. This is not about what political party. This is about us getting to the truth. The goal of an investigator is to find the truth. And Gregory Coleman should find the truth and not trying to look for what political party candidates or maybe supporters, it's just not fair.
Thank you.
It's not fair to the Liberian people. It's not fair to some of us that are following the politics and whatsoever back home, And I think Gregory can do better. He can do better by telling us the truth that, oh, the crime scene was not protected, it was contaminated. This thing was hearsay, they say, and we got caught up, we got confused in the process. instead of bringing people from America, wasting their time, paying people for nothing money, as we say in Liberia. It's just not fair to we the Liberians in the diaspora and those that are back home and paying taxes. And some of us here, we invest back home as well. So we want a safe country. We want a country that will treat our citizens in a fair way. But I just think that this case has been already contaminated. Evidence. I don't know even if they preserve those evidence in a safe and secure manner. And stuff like that.
Thank you.
So it gets sad, and that's all I have to say. I think the fire expert in studio there with you was very clear. I learned a lot from him tonight, and that's how it's supposed to be. Thank you very much, Mr. John.
Thank you. Let me hear from Joyce. Joyce, you are live. Go ahead.
Yeah, how are you? Is he a fireman on the program right now?
Yes, he's been with the Boston Fire Department for 28 years.
Oh, no. I just want to find out if he was for fireman, because my question I want to ask.
Mm-hmm.
My question I want to ask is, after 3 months of contaminated era, with no lab, nothing in Liberia, we have everything at 4 there. People walking in, press people, the cell phone, everybody walking footprint, all passing around. In 3 days time, as a fireman for all the years, you want to, in 3 days time, can you just go like bring 3 days time and make a conclusion?
You mean 3 months time?
Already made a conclusion. They get people in jail. They are people to say they are guilty of the crime. They now bring people from America to go to 3 days time. They come to a conclusion. Is that possible? Because I live in America with no fire.
Thank you. So how long you want it to be? 3 months? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. It ain't gonna be exact 3 months, but knowing like brother, we don't have no lab. We don't have no laboratory in Liberia to say they got a machine to tell me what. I know you can do fire stuff for electric, you know, when they pop in and things like you know. But all the questions they ask, they ask the question because since Greg will be asking, they put the security down on the ground. We have not seen none of them. We have not heard from none of them. And they came to the conclusion now they say the investigators are when they investigated people, they asked witnesses. Who are those witnesses that they asked? That we didn't see for 3 months. Who are the witnesses that they asked that? And did they ask them why is it that today the chair that they used in the speaker house, they took the chair on Wednesday, on Thursday they break up with what they take the chair off? Did they know the people were going to get fire? Those are all the questions I just need to know because we still ask the question. I'm not here for another security on ground.
Thank you. Thank you, Joyce. All right, your turn to respond to our callers. Okay.
For me?
Okay. Let me take one more caller and then you can. Joe Mallory Macture, you're live.
Yeah, man. Dennis, how you doing, man? How you and your studio guests is doing over there?
Good.
Yeah, look. Let me be very honest with you. You know, arson investigation is not an easy investigation. You know what I mean? For any law enforcement agency. And they require a high level of forensic, investigation. First and foremost, the Liberia National Police don't even have a crime lab, a biological crime lab to do a hard determination on, who committed an action and who didn't commit the action. You see, one thing that you do when you're doing law enforcement training, when you're doing a course in action, sometimes, the forensic investigation requires, carrying the individual to the crime lab, and then you will notice that, the chemical they use, chemical analysis can sometimes determine, yes, this person is the one that committed the action, because you might find some particles or some elements on the body of the person, the hair. But let me tell you one thing in conclusion of that investigation there, nothing can come from out of it. It's a dead case. Nothing. They can bring whosoever from America to reconstruct that investigation is not an easy thing. Everything has been tampered with. evidence, everything, there is. So it's going to be a very difficult investigation. You can bring even the FBI to do that investigation. I mean, you're not going to get any suspect. If they get anybody, maybe that person gets the victimization of police investigation or all, but it's not going to work. Trust me. We here put it to a test. So thank you very much for taking my call.
Thank you, Mr. Harden.
Yeah, everybody is right. Everybody is not and I keep saying this. Fire is fire, right? You can see that it was burned, so you want to know how it started. And if you have enough people in there, it's not very difficult to figure out how the fire started, where it started, all the rest of that. You still need the chemical analysis to figure out what was used, what was the accelerant, the method, and later on the reason why they did what they did. That's another whole thing. But to come 3 months later, to take a job 3 months later to go do an investigation is everything is compromised. The whole thing is compromised, and you can still go in there and come to a certain conclusion, but all really you're doing is guesswork, especially in the day. Well, how long was the investigation? 3 days. I think they started on the 1st and they submitted the report on the 4th, right? That's a very, very short time.
Sure. So
But
I mean, if someone want to call a spade, what would say they're hustling? Okay, I would like to say that. There's a comment here from David. Say, if the expert from the United States in fire science can come with the same conclusion like our local expert, does this not suggest that our system and professionals are on the same par with the professionals from the US?
No. The main reason, like I said, I didn't read their report, but their report determined that it was arson, and they even got the people and they put them in jail, right?
Yeah.
So, so they did an investigation. They came to a conclusion. They found the people. They prosecuted them, and they locked them up. This was done in Liberia, and this was done well before the so-called experts came from Liberia. Came from America to investigate. So I'm not gonna say they're on par because they're not on par. They don't have all the equipment. They don't have all the things, but there's some basic. Everyday crime gets solved in Liberia for the most part, right? Somebody go to jail they do a trial. Do we need all the big money labs and all that and professionalism and schooling to come to the same conclusion that basic investigative work can do? I don't think so. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt to have somebody else look at your case in their defense. It doesn't hurt to have somebody else come in with more experience and more training and look at what your conclusions were. You understand? It doesn't hurt for them to do that. If you want to add a political angle to it, then that's on you. But these guys didn't come here for a political reason. I know that for a fact. They have no dog in the fight. They don't care. They got their own lives over here, and they're living pretty good lives. So for them to pick up and leave from their families to come all the way to our little country, our little corner of Africa, and do a little investigation, you can applaud them for that and say, thank you for coming. At least coming, thanks for coming and looking. And at least, is doing some small investigation. That's all you can really say.
Thank you. So, let's look in the future. What do you think this is all going? Go to court, look in there and see, based on your experience, where is this all going?
Well, I know for a fact that whether it's America or whether it's Liberia, politics rules everything, right? It depends who was in power, what kind of conclusion you're trying to get, and who you're trying to go after. So I cannot say what the conclusion would be, what the future would be, if they can use the report. If they can't use the report, I don't know. I really, really don't know. I haven't been following as intense People said, anytime there's a fire in Liberia, they send me the video. Anytime there's a fire in Liberia, I get a video. They send me the video. I'm like, what do you want me to do?
But does it concern you that all other fires have not been investigated? I shouldn't make a blanket statement. But why is the interest in investigating this one? I mean, within the same month that happened, or since it happened, I think there have been maybe 5 or 6 fires.
I think it's been more than that. And it's
Uh-huh.
been like 3 months.
So
All fires are supposed to be investigated.
right. So why is this one so important?
Maybe because of the where the fire was happening in the capital. This is the seat of power in our country, and the importance of the political atmosphere that was there before the fire, right, and still there, right.
Right.
In terms of what's going on with the speaker, I'm not going to speak to any of it because I'm not really personally involved in any of that.
Yeah.
I'm not really following because it just seemed to be going on forever. But whatever the situation and the political atmosphere was when the fire started, the reason why it started, who can say? But I think it's still important to do an investigation. It's still important to do investigation at every fire because you need to know what caused the fire.
Thank you, Mr. Arden, for coming. I want to appreciate your time. Let me get your last word before we draw down the curtains.
Like I said, the guys, the American people who came in and did the investigation, I know them. They're colleagues of mine. I don't know them personally. Like I don't go to the bar to the house for barbecue, but I know them professionally in regards to fire duty and having worked with them before and socialized with them in Liberia, not in Minnesota, but in Liberia. It was a short time. It was a really good experience for me. These guys are professionals. They know what they're doing. They're excellent people. Their reasons for taking this job is their reasons. I can't speak to that. Why did Liberian government decided to pay these people to come down and do an investigation? Maybe it doesn't hurt to do that. That I will say that it doesn't hurt to get another opinion, to get better eyes on it. The time difference is important, but that's neither here nor there. So in that regard, they did what they had to do and they submitted a report. That's all you can say. And I was really surprised that. Not that anybody has to contact me or consult me for anything, because I'm sitting in my corner on this side. I would have liked to have been involved, at least have other Liberians involved in this case, because we do have Liberian professionals over here that can contribute and that I want to contribute to these things. So my conclusion was, look a little harder, reach a little deeper, and look for the Liberian people who are interested in helping out and coming back. And even if it's 3 months later, yeah, we still want to come and we still have some interest in the future and the progression of our country, of our homeland. Even though we all live on this side and we're doing whatever we want to do, we still have a lot of interest. We still have a lot of investment people want to make. They want to. One of your callers said, we invest. We want to invest in our country. We want to make sure that our country is safe and as possible. And that if something happens, we can actually get down to the bottom of it. So,
yeah,
that's really all I can
say. There's a comment here, and he's asking for the color of the fire. Can he comment on the smoke of the fire? The color of the fire smoke, the color of the smoke? I don't know. You are not in Liberia, so I don't know if you can comment on that.
I can't comment on that because all I saw was grainy cell phone pictures. I saw a lot of video on the thing. When you speak into the color of fire and stuff like that, you have to consider what is in the building. What does the building consist of? Like, what is the building holding, right? What is usually in that building? And everybody knows what the building represents. So it's basic deduction. What's going to be in the building to burn? Furniture, usually wood, So the color is not going to be any different from anything else. If it was a store where you're going to have all these different combustibles in there that can blink, or say a stadium or any kind of a building where, say, God forbid, there's a building set on the LPRC property that is burning, the color doesn't really determine what
Of course.
is burning.
Yeah.
Different chemicals will give off different color, but you can make a simple deduction as to what was in the building, usually by what if it was a store, if it was a gas station, if it was whatever you want to call it. So
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
no problem.
As the investigation continues, we'll probably call you back.
Oh, I'll happily do this again. I enjoy doing this. As much as I can educate, there are Liberian professionals on this side who can speak to almost anything that's going on in Liberia. Just because we doesn't mean we're not interested in what's going on over there.
Yeah, so. we are,
And you know what? They should reach out to us. They talk about us going back all the time and helping them to develop our country. Reach out to me. They know how to get in contact with me. It's not that they don't know. They know how to get in contact with other Liberian professionals in here that can speak on, that can do just as good a job as 3 white men from America.
Yeah, that is. Except you think the white man going to do magic, and we can play the magic, but we, sometimes it's sad. We go to school with these people. Sometimes we tap the class. We go to work. Sometimes we are their bosses, but maybe they look at them a little more than they look at us. But thank you for coming. I want to thank our viewers. Always focus on Liberia. Well, when there's issue, we always like to call the expert to speak to it. We all have our opinions, but we want the expert to talk to us, and then from there, politician, you can take it now and run with it after getting educated on the particular subject. Thank you again for coming, and thank our viewers, even those who will watch later. Until then, whether you believe the 3 white men are the best to do the fire, or we Liberians can do fire too ourselves, we are all Liberians. What is incumbent upon all of us is to do our very best to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Have a good night, and God bless you.
Amen.
We are Liberians.